find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
What time is it? Let me check my watch. Oh, it's bone o'clock. In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie, equal to the Apostles Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn, cold but not forgotten, heart.
Well, that sounds ominous indeed.
You will be scared. No, probably just titillated.
Well, I love getting titillated with you, Katelyn.
You too, Sophie, and you too, listener.
Well, happy same mic day. We both have the same microphone, and although it may sound crisp and clear upon this recording, it has been a real bitch getting this recording going.
Yeah, we've been at it for a good half hour trying to get on the same page, but holy shit, here we are. I hope we sound so tight.
Yeah, because there was a lot of, I'm going to leave the Zoom and come back, and Sophie, I cannot read your lips.
I need to get better about lip reading.
I just kept forgetting that you could not hear me. And so I kept trying to tell you what I was thinking, what I was going through in the moment, and you were like, nah, bitch, none of that is coming through.
No. For some reason, my brand new headphones didn't work with Zoom. Maybe I need to go into the Zoom preferences. Just thought of that.
Yeah, maybe.
Later.
Well, I'm glad you thought of it now, and I'm glad you thought of it on the air.
Yeah, it just added a little extra flavor. So welcome to Anything Bones, where
we barely understand the equipment we use.
Yeah, thank you for the recommendation from Nicholas Kruger. Hopefully we sound just as good as you wanted us to sound, and as good as we wanted us to sound.
Nicholas only wanted the best for us. He wanted the best microphones from Sweetwater. Not sponsored, but also Sweetwater, get at us. I would love to be sponsored by you and your wonderful microphones.
Did you get like a phone call from them?
I did get a phone call from them.
Yeah, very good customer service. We could have called them when we had our snafu, probably, but it is also 8 p.m.
Probably, but they kept peer pressuring me to tell them the name of who referred me. They were like,
oh my god, I totally caved. I gave Nick's name.
I gave them Jeff's.
That's funny.
But they were like, I mean, talk about like some intense like Bones CSI, like Criminal Minds style interrogation tactics. They wanted a name. They wanted a name from me, and they weren't going to let me get off that fucking phone call until I told them who recommended their wonderful services to me.
Oh, so see, I didn't answer the phone call, and then I had the whole exchange over text. So it was okay.
Oh, see, I called them like an idiot.
Oh, never do that again. Just never answer the phone is what I like to say.
I've learned that. I used to get shit from my parents because I didn't like to talk on the phone. And now I'm an old lady where I'm like, I just like to talk to people on the phone. I just like to be on the same page. You can't get intonation over text.
Well, it's true. Things get lost in translation sometimes. Anyway.
Katelyn, I have a question.
I probably have an answer.
Do you want to talk about Bones?
Yes. Fart noise.
Oh, come on, make a fart noise. Thank you. Like a dignified grown woman. Make a fart noise like a mature lady that you are. Grow up and make the fart noise.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Okay, so I wanted to continue with my bone story for this week. I wanted to continue in our ongoing anthology of the pantheon of badass women of history.
Love it.
Yeah, because We always love to see someone who's getting out there, having a good control over their territory and or people, really changing the religious landscape of their kingdom and getting some incredibly bloody revenge.
Love that. Also, this may or may not be related, but happy Pride Month.
Yes, happy Pride! Happy Pride to all of our queer boneheads. Happy Pride to you. Happy Pride to myself.
Yeah. Woot woot.
Woo woo.
The badassery of it reminded me that we maybe haven't said happy Pride yet.
Oh, well, I'm always down to take any opportunity to say happy Pride and to proclaim that I am a bisexual woman.
Ooh. Ah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have fun with that in the edit.
Yeah, jazz that up, please.
Oh, you know that I'm going to. Okay. So the badass woman I was describing before our little pride break is Saint Olga of Kiev.
Oh my god, we're going to Ukraine.
Of course we are. All right. So a little bit of sources. We have an article from thecollector.com, one from All That's Interesting, one from Britannica.com, and of course, Wikipedia. Thank you very much.
Obviously.
So, Saint Olga, who is also called Helga or Saint Olga of Kiev, was born probably around 890 to 900 CE. And she was a princess who was the first recorded female ruler in what is now Russia and the first member of the ruling family of Kiev to adopt Christianity.
Cool.
So she was canonized as the first Russian saint of the Orthodox Church, and she is the patron saint of widows and converts.
Oh, is that like an icon or is that an insult?
You get to see that it is very iconic why that is what she is the saint of. And if I were either of these things, praying to her would probably be a good move.
All right, I'm going to go with icon then.
So there's, of course, with a lot of these women in their early life, there's not a lot of documentation as to like what the fuck she was up to before she married her like royal husband. She is believed to be born around 900 CE, as I was saying, in the city of Pskov. She was descendant from the Volgarian group of people who are loosely categorized along with Vikings and Scandinavians. They're from that kind of Scandinavia, Eastern European. We're getting closer to the Arctic, but we're not quite there. In 903, Olga was married to Igor of Kiev, who was the leader of the Kievan Rus, who were a group of people in what is now like Russia, Ukraine area. But those borders weren't heavily defined in this time.
Of course, there's a little bit of heavy modern context right now, particularly.
Exactly. Because in this time, there was a lot of like nomadic tribes. There was a lot of fighting over different territories. And in fact, at this time, there wasn't a unified Russia or anything like that. Just different groups of ancestral peoples. But Igor and his father who came before him, one of their big missions was to come and unite all of these different tribes under one kind of nation together, which is a lot harder. Well, it's about exactly as hard as you think it would be.
Sounds pretty difficult.
Sounds terrible, yeah. So Igor, he is married to Olga, and they are expanding their territory and their political reach by absorbing more of their neighbor tribes and collecting tributes or like kind of quasi-taxes. Wouldn't necessarily be money, could be stuff.
Yeah, bartering your taxes away.
IRS, would you like my old shirts? So once they have started absorbing all these neighbor tribes, now Igor and Olga rule over what is now Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. So a pretty large area. during this time, there was a lot of conflict also with the Byzantine Empire, who was right next door, and they loved expanding their territory and also Christianity.
Okay. Interesting combo all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they seem to always go together, don't they?
Yeah.
So in 942, Olga has a son named, this is a toughie, Svilantovslav. So moving back a little bit, in 912 CE, Igor was going through his territory collecting all of the tributes to his royal family to be part of, this collection of tribes. And he realized that there were some groups that had stopped making payments. As soon as he went on this campaign where he was trying to get more tribes in, all the other tribes were like, great, he's gone. We're going to stop paying taxes.
Okay. Sneaky.
Yeah.
I like it.
So he comes back from his campaigns in 945 CE, and he's like, okay, I know that everybody stopped paying taxes while I was gone, but it's time to pay taxes again. And most of the tribes were like, okay, fine, you caught us. We will pay your taxes. But some of the tribes, one tribe in particular, the Dravillians, they did not want to pay taxes, and they just straight up weren't going to. In the past, they had been allies with the Kievan Rus, who are, Olga's people, against the Byzantine Empire. But now that was like not, the biggest thing on their table, they were coming up into conflict against the Kievan Rus once more. So he goes to confront the Dravillians to get their tribute, and they're like, okay, we'll give you the tribute that you asked for. And he looks over the tribute and he goes, I'm not satisfied with this, actually. And he decides he's going to actually go back and ask them for more.
So it was money, like an amount of money that he wanted more money?
Yeah, he wanted more money, basically.
Okay.
So he goes to their capital city to collect more money. And the leaders of the Dravillians murder him.
Oh, shit. Okay, that escalated very quickly.
Yes. There was a Byzantine chronicler who was there at the time, and he wrote, quote, they had bent down 2 birch trees to the prince's feet and tied them to his legs. Then they let the trees straighten again, thus tearing the prince's body apart.
That is foul. What a terrible way to go.
It's
oh my
rough
God.
stuff, torn in half by trees. That's not cool, guys.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Once word of this gets back to Olga,
her husband has been torn apart. Shit.
By her enemies.
What's she gonna do?
Well, first, she's got to deal with matters at home, because although he is also her husband, he is also the king. So, right. And he went on this tax collecting adventure and got himself killed. So his son, little junior, long name I can't pronounce, is only like 3 years old. And instead of doing what a lot of European tribes would do at this time, which would be baby king, everybody loves a good baby king, Olga decides he is too young to be baby king. She will take the throne for herself, which I think is a good call. Baby king never works out.
Well, it doesn't make sense. Like, let him be king when he's like at least out of diapers.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Some of these, there's a strong misogyny going on. It's hard to fight that with logic and reason.
Okay.
But she's a woman, Katelyn.
Yeah, little baby man would be better than this woman.
Than the wife of whatever king died. Yeah, little baby man king. Okay, so after her husband is brutally murdered by the Dravillians, they send her a message going, hey, so would you want to marry our prince?
No fucking way, you guys. No.
Yes. Yeah, that was their next big move.
But she had to say fuck you right off.
Well, she thought that that was an interesting proposal that she could do a lot with.
Okay. Yeah, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer type situation.
Yeah, this guy, Prince Mal. So she responds to him by saying, quote, "Your proposal is pleasing to me. Indeed, my husband cannot rise from the dead."
Yeah.
Yeah, bitch.
Stating fact.
So she asks these Dravillian ambassadors who are coming, she's like, the next day, you're going to come to our city with your, like, best boat, and you're going to let my guys carry you through our beautiful city in your boat. And they were like, okay, that sounds cool. And she was like, awesome, great. And then she immediately turns around to her guards and goes, hey, everybody.
Get everybody.
Get everybody. Literally, though, get everybody. We're going to dig a big hole.
Oh, holy shit.
So when these guys show up, she has all of her guards and all, like, I imagine all the strongest dudes in town, where she's just like, you know, anyone who's strong doesn't have to be a dude. Anybody who's got big burly muscles, come carry this big boat. We're going to do something real fun with it. And so they carry it through the city and they promptly pick it up and they throw it in the hole. And then she looks down at them from the top of this hole and says, quote, "Found the honor to their taste." And then she just pushes all the dirt in over them. Bury them alive.
Fuck. That is dark.
It's pretty bad. But, you know, her husband was murdered. And for Olga, even though this was a great fun prank, this was not enough.
Yeah, she's not done.
You think she's done? She's not done.
A bitch is never done.
A bitch is never done. So before news of this, like, burying alive can reach the Dravillians, she writes back to Prince Mal and she is pretending that she's still, like, open to the possibility of marrying him.
Oh, he wasn't on the ship.
Nope. He's still back at home. He just sent a bunch of ambassadors over there to, like, you know, get the deal going with her.
And then they all died. Shit.
She writes to him and is like, send all of your best men to my city to pick me up and bring me to your city. Because I need the best escorts to bring me back to your city if we're going to think about this marriage. And he's like, yeah, okay. Because news travels slow. And he hasn't heard anything about what happened to the guys in the boat. And so he sends a bunch of super high level diplomats, like military men, advisors, all these type of dudes he sends over there to her place. And she goes, welcome, come on in. And she invites them all into this big bathhouse.
Oh my God. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm so terrified for them.
And then she bars the door.
Oh.
And then she lights the whole thing on fire.
Jesus Christ. I didn't think that's where it was going to go, but okay.
Yep, no survivors.
No. I don't know why I thought it was going to be like poison or like a gas or something.
I mean, if she had the tech for that, I'm sure she would love to.
Oh yeah, this is the 900s.
This is
right.
The 900s, so we're going for low-tech stuff like arson.
Yeah, very low-tech.
So word travels so fucking slow. They still haven't heard about what she's up to over there.
He's got like 5 servants left. They're like, I don't know. Are you going to go or I'm not going to go? Are you going to go?
We keep sending people and no one's coming back.
This house can't run itself.
Yeah, jeebers. Basically, after this, she sends another letter beating to the punch, you know, this news to Prince Mal, the prince on the other side, and is like, hey, I'm gonna come to the city where my husband was killed, and I want to see where that happened, and I want to hold like a funeral feast for him, and like commemorate his death, and then like maybe we'll get married.
And he's like, totally awesome.
Yes, of course. Of course he says, come on over.
Wow.
So Olga gets there and she hosts a big funeral banquet for her Jesus, talk much? Olga gets there and she hosts a large funeral banquet for her dead husband and invites all the Dravinian soldiers as kind of like a make good, as a breaking of bread and olive branch. And she makes sure that all of the soldiers, the Dravinian soldiers, get fucking wasted.
Definitely.
And then, at her signal, her royal men who have gone with her break out their fucking swords and slaughter 5,000 people.
Jesus, they red wedding it.
They red weddinged it. It was like it's a red funeral. They should have fucking seen it coming. Literally, she's coming to your city to see where her husband died and to have his funeral. You think she's gonna do that quietly, gently, and like, no. But they haven't heard.
Fuck.
But they're gonna hear it now because
everybody is dead now.
Well, not quite everybody.
Okay.
Because the Kievian Rus, the Olga's side, bring their entire army and basically lay siege to this city for about a year.
Oh.
And at the end of this year, the Dravinians are on their last legs. They've been dealing with siege every day, all day, for a year. So they're pretty much done. And so they're like, we'll pay it, whatever, like, tribute you want, whatever, like, stupid whatever you want, we'll give it to you. And she's like, oh, you guys, like, I'm not gonna be like my husband. I don't want anything crazy. I don't want a lot of riches or anything like that. Just give me 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from each household.
This cannot end well.
So she's like, if you give me these things, I will stop the siege and we'll be done here.
Okay, so 6 birds from each house?
Yeah, 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows. That night, Olga orders all of her men to tie a piece of sulfur and a little cloth on each of these birds that they got, right?
Okay.
This is really horrible. So she then sets those cloths on fire and lets the birds go. And these birds, of course, are familiar with their own homes. And as we know, birds fly back to their roosts. So all these birds that are all on fire flew back into the city to the houses where they came from and burnt them to the ground.
Oh my God. I mean, I didn't know where she was going with the birds, but shit, that is really, like, ruthless, but also really clever, like, weirdly clever.
It's, like, so clever. The false sense of security on this is, like, through the roof. If I was one of those people, I'd be like, what is she gonna do with the birds? What is she gonna do with the birds?
Well, you'd think nothing, and you'd be so horribly wrong.
It's just a very clever way of burning down the whole city. And basically, most of the population was dead at this point. But she basically took a lot of people for slaves, and then she executed a bunch of people. And then she left a small proportion of people to rebuild the town. Ostensibly so she could seize it later.
I guess. What?
That's just a joke. I just don't know why she would tell them to rebuild it.
Yeah, it
after
seems
she
like
went to so much trouble.
Exactly. She really did everything to destroy it. And then that leaves you open for, like, revenge plots later. So, I don't know.
I mean, maybe she was like, it's no fun if you're all dead.
God, Jesus.
After this, she goes back to Kiev and rules peacefully for, like, many years.
Wow.
Later in 948 CE, Olga, who is... All of the Kievian Rus are pagan up until this point, including Olga. Unfortunately, like I said kind of earlier in the story, they're right up against the Byzantine Empire, who, like I said at the beginning of the story, they love two things: expanding their empire and Christianity.
Uh-oh.
So she gets a fun invite from the emperor of the Byzantine Empire, Constantine VII, and he proposes to her and is like, hey, if you be my empress, you can rule the Byzantine Empire and your own shit. And she's like, I can't do that. I'm pagan. And he's like, no problem. We'll just baptize you. And now your name is Helena.
Oh, sure. It's funny how quickly that can change.
Right? So after this baptism, the emperor proposes to Olga again, but Olga's like, no. You baptized me, which means that you are like symbolically my father in the faith of Christianity. And if I were to marry you, it would be an incestuous wedding. And Christianity says that's a no-no. And he kind of looked at her and he sighed and was like, you know what, bitch, you got me. And he sent her back home with a bunch of gold and jewels and gifts, being like, you know what, war well won. We're not getting married.
Shit, that is wild.
And she spent the rest of her life on a mission to convert as many people in her lands to Christianity as possible. She tried to convert her son, but he was like, nah, Mom, I'm a pagan for life. But she did get her grandson. She ended up building many churches all throughout the Ukraine, Belarus, Russia area and converting a large amount of people. She went to battle one last time in 968, and she helped to defend Kiev from the Bulgarian army who were trying to take her son's throne away. And then a year after that, Olga died of illness in 969. Can I get a nice?
You can. Do you mean she literally was like in a suit of armor?
Yeah.
Out on the battlefield?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
She like led the charge, I think. Yeah.
She's like, okay, I've watched a lot of fighting. I'm getting in on this in the last year of my life.
The woman had instigated a fair amount of violence.
Yeah, badass.
Yeah.
Scary, scary badass.
So when she died, of course, the records at the time say that her, all of her territory wept for her. There's a quote written down at the time that says, quote, Olga, shone like the moon by night and was radiant among the infidels like a pearl in the mire.
Not sure that's a compliment, but okay.
She's hot and she's real into killing.
And you will treasure her if she doesn't kill you.
Yeah. Because of her crusade to spread Christianity throughout her lands, she was later sainted in 1547 by the Russian Orthodox Church, and she was given the epithet equal to the apostles, which she is the first Russian woman to be given this, canonized woman to be given this title. And as we said, as it kind of connects to the story, she is the patron saint of widows and converts.
Yeah, shit. She lives up to it.
She certainly does. And she did have a wonderful tomb, and I would like to believe it was super elaborate and awesome, but it was destroyed in 1240.
Damn it, guys.
I know,
what were you
right?
doing?
Right. So, in kind of summary of this, Olga's story is extreme, gory, graphic, and probably greatly exaggerated. It's, sometimes these historical events we talk about seem like they're so crazy they couldn't have happened. And some of them are, apocryphal. But she was a real person who lived. So some amount of this did happen.
Yeah, she sounds very scary.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that made her the biggest threat besides her never-ending thirst for revenge, is that she was also a political powerhouse. She did end up uniting more of these nomadic tribes into the greater Russian territory that we know today. And she helped to start one of the longest ruling dynasties in Russia's history, the Rurik dynasty, which ruled for over 700 years. And you know who came after them?
I don't know. Alexander?
The Romanovs.
Shit. His family, yeah.
Yes. So here's to Olga, and I hope that she never stops seeking revenge wherever she is.
Here.
The thing with the boat still gets me.
That's fucking wild. Let's just pick it up and put it in a hole. Like, that's a big hole and probably a small boat.
I mean, it might have been a big hole and a big boat, but just my favorite part is the whole time they're carrying these dignitaries in this boat through the city. Must have been a long walk. And, you know, one party thinks that they're going to have a nice feast, and the other party knows that it's man-dumping time.
Yeah. Wow. Well, look out. There's a boat headed straight for us, being lowered down from the ceiling.
Oh, shit.
We should probably deal with this and then come right back.
That sounds good to me. Hey, excuse me, you can't put that here.
Cannot be saved. Follow me.
Welcome to the Ugly Radio on the Podmoth Network, a lo-fi sci-fi audio theater anthology series made for late nights and strong drinks. Join us monthly as we broadcast a pirate signal across time and space, featuring stories, songs, and frequencies from a rotating list of voice actors, writers, storytellers, and musicians. If you're looking for high-quality science fiction, skin-crawling horror, and other genre fiction, listen to The Ugly Radio on the Podmoth Network, now available wherever you get your podcasts. The Ugly Radio. See you in the void.
Okay, like, you can't just put your boat anywhere you want, Olga. Like, there are rules about this shit.
You can threaten us all you want, but we don't have boat storage here.
This is Seattle. There is a lake, but I'm not looking at it right now.
Here. Just look at my phone. Here are the directions. Now you and all your burly men go walk that way. Yeah, that way. Go. Get out of here. Okay, I think she's gone.
All right, now that she's gone, I'll take you on a little journey with my story. All the way from 969
Nice.
CE up to 1980.
Okay, quite a time jump.
Yeah. And we're going to start our story with some sources. I was about to just jump in. Silly me.
Too excited.
I looked at an article from Medium, Ridgecrest, California.com, People.com, All That's Interesting, and Wikipedia. So, we're in 1980, and we are in the Mojave Desert in California. Am I saying that right? Mojave Desert?
I think so, yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know exactly how this discovery was made, but my sources said that an archaeologist found a male and female skeletonized remains. I can't talk either. Okay. So, in the desert, one day in November 1980, an archaeologist apparently discovers a pair of skeletonized human remains, one male and one female, and they're buried in a shallow grave. They didn't have any clothing, and they had clearly been victims of homicide. It's not really clear from my sources how this archaeologist found the remains, but it just, one way or another, they were discovered. And
well, I guess when you're an
sucked.
archaeologist, you just get to dig around anywhere you like. That's what I'm jealous of.
Yeah, you get to dig around and, like, with without any kind of explanation. It's like, oh, I was just digging. I'm an archaeologist.
I'm an archaeologist. Don't question me. I mean, that's how they used to do it. That's how they filled the British Museum. I'm an archaeologist. Don't question me.
Yeah, that's unfortunately true. I hopefully this archaeologist was more
we're being such
more
assholes to this person. Yeah, we have no idea. They're like, I was out there on a state-sanctioned dig.
Yeah, I'm sure it was legit. Hopefully. I don't know why I'm so sure. So unfortunately, they had their autopsies and it was estimated that they had been buried for like 6 to 8 months, but technology wasn't what it is now. And so they just had no way to identify them. That, like I said, they were buried with no clothing and no like ID, nothing. And there were no witnesses, like nobody, they couldn't figure it out. So the bodies are discovered in 1980. And unfortunately, this case goes cold for 40 years.
Oh.
Nobody has any idea who they are, but it will get solved. Can you believe it?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, I'll tell you. So we're flashing forward to about 2018, so about 40 years later, and a woman named Christine Marie Sally, she's 41. She lives in San Bernardino. She always knew she'd been adopted, but in 2018, she decided to hire a PI to, like, find her parents. One of my sources said that she knew that her mother had given her up when she was about 2 months old because she was raised by her half-uncle, and she may or may not have had some kind of relationship with her mother's family. Only one source said that, so I'm not exactly sure. But the source said that the mom had run away when she was really young and the family had just lost contact with her. I want to just point out, in case this comes up for anybody, I think it's a little bit weird that the mother is never reported missing.
Yeah.
So anyway, she hires this PI and the PI finds the adoption paperwork and identifies her mother as Pamela Diane Duffy. But I have to assume that if she was raised with her mother's family, she must have already known her mother's name and was more just like trying to find her. I'm not really sure. That's a little bit strange to me, like a little bit muddled. But anyway, so the PI also does a very smart thing, and he submits her DNA to a company called GEDmatch. Have you heard of this company before?
I have not. Does it match you with a general education degree?
No, it does not. But
That'd be nice.
It could be that. Kind of sounds like it could be. No, so it's a, quote, online service to compare autosomal, is it autosomal? Oh my god. It's been a while since I took biology.
Autosomal?
Autosomal.
I don't know.
Oh well. DNA data files from different testing companies. So the website got really popular because they played a key role in the April 2018 identification of the fucking Golden State Killer.
Oh, I fucking knew it.
Yep.
As soon as you said, do you recognize that name? And I was like, no. And you were like, well, it was popularized. And I was like, here it comes.
So basically, you get your DNA like sequenced. You submit that to this domain or database. It's really more for searching for relatives. But then after the Golden State Killer case, this is also from Wikipedia, quote, other law enforcement agencies started using GEDmatch for violent crimes, making it the de facto DNA and genealogy database for all of law enforcement.
Wow, I'm not going to use that one.
Well, I mean, if you have nothing to hide, then you might want to. No, I don't think I'm going to either.
I don't want the cops to have my DNA.
Although they did get acquired by another company in December 2019, and I guess they're going to start focusing more on solving crime, but you have to, users have to opt in to being shared, their information being shared with police.
Here's the thing. If it could help solve a crime that I didn't do, I would definitely give them my DNA, but...
Yeah. If you had some kind of long lost, I could totally understand putting in Christine's DNA because she's looking for a lost family member.
Yeah.
So, and guess what? It pays off.
Hell yeah.
So this took place in December 2020. The company, GEDmatch, found a relationship between Christine and the DNA sample from the female body in the shallow grave from 1980 in the desert.
Oh, no.
Yep. So the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office gets in contact with Christine when, like, they are alerted to this GEDmatch. She gives another DNA sample, which is, like, officially analyzed, you know what I mean? And then in April 2021, officially, Jane Doe is no longer the victim's name, and now it's Pamela Duffy.
Well, we're getting somewhere now.
40 years later, all because Christine wanted to find her biological parents.
I mean, it's crazy the connections that happen in the world. I don't know. Like, I just think it's amazing that we have the technology to match human remains with living people. Like, I think that's so important.
Yeah, it's definitely an advancement in technology. It's beyond anything that could have been dreamed of in 1980 when the bodies were discovered. So unfortunately, you know, once they identify who the victim is, they're able to determine that she was only 21 when she died.
Fuck.
So she's identified, but we still don't know who the male victim is. Christine is able to help police with this one as well, crazily enough. Not because he's her biological father, but because it says that she recalled that her mother was associated with somebody named Digger Lane, but I doubt that she could have heard that herself and remembered it because she was only like a tiny baby when she was put up for adoption. So I feel like this is one of those stories that her family told her.
That would make more sense.
Right? I'm reading between the lines there, but that's just what I'm guessing. So she knew that the name was Digger Lane, and she also somehow knew that he had been in prison at some point. So they search through prison records. They're trying to find somebody with the name Lane, and they actually find him. His name is William Lane, and they get in contact with his mother and then get some DNA from her and conclude that 20-year-old William Lane is the John Doe from the shallow grave.
Fuck. Well, what were they doing out there?
Yeah, good question. Everybody was wondering that too. Again, I just want to point out there's no mention of this in my sources. Like, why did neither of these people have a missing persons report out on them? Like, I think the only explanation I have is that they both lived kind of like quote unquote transient lifestyles. And so, like, some of the family, like, I think William's mom at some point in one of my sources said she just thought, oh, here it is. Quote, William's mother admitted that she had just assumed Billy was off doing his thing. She tearfully wondered if he would be alive today if she had been a more prominent presence in his life.
Oh, that's rough.
Isn't that so sad?
That is so sad. I mean, you know, there's no way to know that.
Yeah, there's no way to know. But it's really sad that they just totally lost touch with their families and nobody was even looking for them for 40 years. That's really heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
And they never would have discovered who they were. Cops never would have figured it out unless Christine had come forward trying to find her parents.
Well, it just makes me think, you know, how many other sets of remains are like that, you know, kind of just waiting for people to, you know, help identify them.
Yeah, it's chilling. I'm sure there's a lot. Okay, so you asked an important question. Who did this?
Who did this? Who did this?
Apparently they'd had a suspect all along.
Okay.
But his name is Howard Neal. I guess he had lived in the California area around the time that the bodies were discovered, and then he had moved to Mississippi shortly afterwards. I don't know how that, indicated to the police that he was guilty, but that was the explanation, across the board as to why they thought he was guilty. I assume that he was just an absolute shithead, in California. But
I mean, must have some other connection to them, because moving across the country isn't automatically, I mean, it's suspicious if it was right after, but people move across the country sometimes.
Yeah, not everybody does what he did, and this is pretty gnarly. Howard, after moving to Mississippi, he unfortunately murdered his brother and raped and murdered his 13-year-old niece and a friend of hers.
Okay, I might be with the police on this one. I'm pegging him as a suspect.
He's just a bad dude. He was convicted of those murders and sentenced to death in 1982. So remember, the bodies were found in 1980. So anyway, after he was sentenced to death, a few years later, they tested his IQ, and it was found to be so low that they decided to reduce his sentence to 3 life terms, which he is still currently serving.
From death row?
Yeah, his sentence got commuted to life.
Okay.
So Guy Howard's attorney, he didn't want investigators to interview him about the 1980 cold case, but, quote, told them in no uncertain terms that they had found their guy.
Okay, so that pretty much, that doesn't seal it, evidence-wise, but it seals it story-wise, I think, pretty good.
Yeah, and since they didn't know who the victims were, I guess it was just kind of lost. And the guy was in jail anyway 2 years later, so, it's super messy.
I guess you could try him again for this stuff, but...
He's already in jail for life, and they're not going to execute him, so it's like, I get it, but it sucks.
It's not the kind of hellfire revenge Olga was getting.
No, certainly not. The families get a little bit of closure, but they don't get that satisfaction of having a day in court or anything like that.
Yeah.
Howard was actually eventually interviewed in 2017. So they knew this interview had been done before Christine even came into the picture. So they knew who their guy was. They just didn't know who the victims were. So I don't know. It's messy. But I found the story really compelling because none of this would have come up if Christine hadn't submitted her DNA to GEDmatch.
Yeah, when you think about, have you ever done something and just been like, oh, what's the worst that could happen? It's like, oh, what could come from this? It's like, oh, way more than you think sometimes. Yeah. Way more than you think.
So during this 2017 interview, I guess... Howard, it doesn't seem like Howard even knew their names. That's the craziest part. So he shared that the man and woman were hitchhiking across the country. He knew that the woman had left behind a little daughter. And he said that the man looked like a hippie. It was the 80s, so not far off from it's fine. Apparently, Howard picked up the couple, brought them back to his house. And then he and William started to fight because Howard tried to come on to Pamela. Pretty gross. Howard says that he killed William in self-defense, but, come on. He set up the situation to begin with.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's presumed that he raped and murdered Pamela as well.
What a fucking monster.
He will never get out of prison, I will say that. But yeah, he has never been and probably never will be charged with their murders.
That sucks.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I picked another downer.
It's okay. It's just, it answers an interesting question of what do you do in a case like this where, you're pretty sure you know who did it. Now you have the victims. You have a rough story, but there's not a lot of evidence. And basically your end result is what's happening now. It's just, it feels like such a trapped, it feels like there's a solution but no solution.
Right, and this kind of is a re-traumatization for the families. For Christine, she was living her life, maybe potentially hoping that she would meet her mother one day.
Oh, God.
And yeah, it was never going to happen, unfortunately. And she doesn't know who her biological father is. One of the sources said that the name listed on her birth certificate wasn't a DNA match. So she still could get that answer someday. And for William's family, too, they may have hoped that he was okay doing his own thing somewhere. But the truth is that he's he's been gone the whole time, and that would be really traumatizing, I would think.
That would be horrible. I can't even imagine the level of guilt that, that family is feeling. Because, like, I don't know, it was the 80s. It's not like they could text him. Or,
No.
If he was someone who didn't have a landline, it's not like they could really call him or send him a letter. They didn't know where he was. So you just had to have faith that, like, he was out
he
there.
would show up one day. Yeah.
Oh.
So I know. So again, I'm sorry that I went back to the downers after one reprieve last week. But I read about this case and was just like, holy shit, like this almost like butterfly effect. Like if she hadn't, hired this PI who put her DNA into this database that's now popular because they helped catch the Golden State Killer. Like, all these things fell into place, and then this completely forgotten cold case got it sounds like it was already, they knew who did it, but the victims got their identities back.
Yeah, that's the most important thing here is that, like, even though, like, you could argue one way or the other whether they got justice on this one, but it's like, I don't know, when you said it feels like the butterfly effect, it kind of feels like the butterfly effect, but like if at the end the tsunami hit a giant wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like you said, the real light is that these people got their identities back and that they're not just remains in storage somewhere. Now they're people, their faces, they can be return to their families in that way.
Yes, and they can be properly mourned.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, that one didn't have a good ending. Sorry.
Well, I think it did have a good ending that, like, technology these days has advanced so far that, like, if we can get, if the resources can be gathered and the time can be put in, these cases, these remains that don't have names can be solved in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, lots of, like I said, the Golden State Killer that was a big
That was
get.
wild. That was wild.
That's one of those moments where it's like, I remember where I was when I found out, like, that he was caught. And I've gone back and forth about covering that case on this podcast. I tend to not want to because it's so dark.
Yeah.
And like I watched I'll Be Gone in the Dark, but I couldn't finish the book because I was just so like horrified.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I would listen to you do it, but that's a big one. We might have to do that together if we ever did, because that's so big.
Yeah, and it's
yucky.
horrible.
It's so bad.
Horrible. Yeah, he's just a nightmare.
Anyway.
Okay, so what have we learned?
Don't fuck with Ukrainian women.
Definitely wasn't planning on it to begin with, but I definitely won't now.
Just a blanket warning for all. For her, revenge was the answer. No.
And if you have a burning question or you think a case can never be solved, you might be wrong.
Yeah, and if your enemy ever invites you to parade through the street on a boat, don't do it.
Don't do it.
It's a trap.
Instead, just stay home and appreciate your bones.
And wave to the nice people and say, Bon voyage. Bye. Have a good week.
Love you.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Grow up and make the fart noise.